We've just started the recording a little bit late, and I apologize for that. We were going through the prioritized regions as part of, again, our first week of the month of the regional action plan that is focused on strategy. And I just want to open it up. We have a number of you who are residents of the area on these locations, and recent activity or behavior that you've observed at these locations or additional locations. And I will touch on the other locations that have been mentioned as we transition in our agenda, but wanted to make sure, again, of the prioritized regions, if you've seen any new activity, problematic behavior that you wanted to share as we focus on these regions moving forward. Okay. And the McDonald's, the Arco gas station, the 7-Eleven, I think, Sergeant Dijon, you kind of focused on that alleyway behind. And that has been the focus, kind of connecting all of those businesses in the back. And then have you had any engagement with the county on Rocky Neck Park at all?
That was passed on. I passed that on to our city park ranger, who reached out to the county park ranger and made them aware of some of the complaints. I don't know if, what's taken place since then, but we've notified the right people.
Okay. And
Barbara?
Lucille, yes, go ahead.
I was curious. So we're cleaning these places up, but where are these people going? They're not disappearing. Do we have any idea?
We do have shelter beds available, but we also know in terms of movement. So individuals that have been experiencing homelessness, so LRTs and CityNet have actually done a lot of outreach and continue to do case management of folks still living on the street. So not necessarily relocated to a shelter at the time. Again, if they're open to it, absolutely that referral is being made. We are seeing, obviously, the bridge housing program at Rose Garden is still in place and in place to the end of the year. So in terms of those clients have not re-entered the street. And again, I know that CityNet, I don't want to speak for Emily yet, she'll provide an update, is doing everything possible to make sure that that's not the case. But we haven't seen movement, and Sergeant Dijon, we haven't seen movement like we had in the last couple of months in terms of enforcement. And I know the rains coming in also create their own movement, but there is a lot of vehicular homeless, Father Hardin, in that region and upper state in general. And so I will say that is taking another concerted effort. Cassie Roach of Safe Parking Program is here, again, because of the capacity of the agency to take on new clients at this time. So I know that doesn't answer your question directly, but a lot of them have not been moved per se, but they're being case managed and outreach is being strategically done by CityNet.
Yeah, we were overwhelmed last week.
Because of the weather or in general?
Whether we had 80 clients in one day.
Yeah. And for all of you that might not know, that's the day center. And so again, providing much needed relief, especially during the inclement weather for individuals experiencing homelessness. Hi, Al. Welcome. How are you? Happy New Year. Oh, I think it doesn't look like you're on mute, but we can't hear you quite yet. Any other information from residents, again, about prioritized regions, current prioritized regions, as well as suggesting new prioritized regions?
I just wanted to add, maybe to answer John's question a little bit. The last few weeks, 3 weeks maybe, the warming centers on various days that it's been open at night. And so I think we're probably seeing a lot of people from all over the city taking advantage of that. And it's, especially during the rainy week we had, I'm sure a lot of people were inside there. That, and then whenever it rains, we typically find people that are able to pool money and get hotel rooms. And so that may be where some of the folks have ended up going.
And farther, Hardin, there's a question about the day center. So I think if you could just take a couple of moments about the day center, who operates it. So I know Good Samaritan Shelter has just stepped in as the fiscal agent there. But just again, if you could just share some general information about the location, the day center, and how you operate, and the services that you provide.
Okay, well, we've been there 3 years with the exception of a year and a half going out in the park. We're at 4020 Calle Real, right next to a liquor store, massage parlor, a gun store, a bait and tackle store, and a liquor store.
Yeah.
So we're full service.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we offer breakfast, lunch, laundry facilities. They can get their mail there. Have all of our chairs recline, so it's a lot of people just come in and sleep.
Mhm.
And we have with the collaboration with Good Sam, we have a case manager there who's been working with the file with what's the initials for city, HMIC, is that right?
HMIS, yeah.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, I like the alphabet of social service agencies. Anyway, it's operated and sponsored by the Daughters of Charity and the Friars here at the Mission, and we have about 35 volunteers. There is some government money through Good Samaritan to increase our capacity, so we've doubled the space, so we can hold up to 40 to 45 people comfortably with COVID restrictions.
Mhm.
They are required to wear masks while they're not eating. And also we take the temperature when they come in.
Great.
So I think that's enough information. I mean, I can go on all day, but
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And again, we're seeing in terms of, having that location during the day, it does reduce impacts to the neighborhood overall because there's a place for them to be. And then checking mail, charging phones, having a safe place to sleep, do laundry, all are hugely beneficial, again, to giving folks who are living on the streets that level of dignity. And we see positive behaviors from it. They're grateful for the opportunity, they're grateful for the space and the place to be safe during the day. And so thank you so much for all the volunteers that contribute to making that happen.
and Aaron has done a great job with the HMIS to help people because, as we all know, it's almost impossible to fill out all the paperwork that you need, housing stuff. And so we're really, I think 70 people that he started working with.
I do want to just take one extra moment to emphasize that because there are many agencies that are doing incredible relief work and have helped our unsheltered population over the last decade plus, meeting them where they're at, offering meals, and just, being caring and kind. But because we have the resources that we have now from every level of government, as well as the commitment of our city and city council and city staff, we can now use these moments of reprieve, the relationships that you've built, that faith-based organizations that have built, to then connect people to a system that can actually provide the help that they need for the long term. And so the homeless management information system, which you're referring to, is that avenue. Once we know more information about that individual, what their needs are, then we can find the appropriate opportunity, whether that's reunification, relocation, finding a permanent housing unit for them, treatment opportunities for them. That is that pathway. So thank you for bringing that to the attention to folks that might not be as familiar to what it takes to get someone through and part of that system to then get them the help that they need. All right, I'm going to turn it to the Bridge Housing Program update. And so Emily or Al, update on the folks. And again, just thank you so much for providing the update before the holidays. It's been amazing to see not only the level of documentation readiness, the level of employment, the level of access to income now, regular income, that you've been able to facilitate with these clients. Thank you so much for that work, as well as the extended work you're doing outside of the Rose Garden and outreach. So, Emily, I'll turn it to you first.
Yeah. Hey guys, can you see me and hear me?
I can see and hear you, but you're
Okay,
on,
awesome.
but are you coming through a different channel? It says you're on mute.
I don't know. I'm working out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're
We can hear you.
frozen, but I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Well, as long as you can hear me, I'm working out of the Rose Garden and we do not have the best cell service and internet, so I apologize. But I'm starting to see more of you now, so hopefully that works. But yes, so in terms of an update on our bridge housing program here, right now we still have about 39 clients who are still in shelter. 4 of those clients now have vouchers in hand. I think an update from the last meeting was that the emergency housing vouchers that were allocated had all been used up. And so those clients who still had vouchers but no units attached, unfortunately had their vouchers revoked, which is why our number went from 11 vouchers in hand to 4 vouchers in hand. Those are really difficult conversations to have. My staff did a graceful job navigating those conversations, but unfortunately that did happen not only for the city, but also our county housing vouchers. With that being said, we do have 8 clients who have housing opportunities, whether this is through our rapid rehousing funds or we were just allotted $750,000 from the county to help rehouse anyone who is at the Orange Tree or who is at the Rose Garden or our scattered site motel projects. And so those fundings would serve similarly to a rapid rehousing project where we're giving some rental assistance for 6 months until people stabilize and get jobs. And are able to afford living on their own. Most of these housing opportunities will be in shared housing spaces. And we will be providing the case management services and retention services once they are housed. We also have 13 clients who have been connected to income since the project start. And then as we're getting closer to a project close, we have 32 clients who are document ready, and 22 of those clients will be considering a shelter as an option at the end of the project, which is really exciting to hear because we were worried that everyone would be returning to the streets. So if we have 8 plus 22, we're at 30 people with a positive exit being predicted for the end of this project. And we will be looking into the 9 clients who are choosing to exit to the streets and see how we can provide some motivational interviewing skills, shelter option instead. Does anyone have any questions on the progress on any of the projects? On the expected close, what that's going to look like?
Emily, if you could just go through that transition. And I know, again, CityNet operates a scattered bridge housing program throughout the city of Santa Barbara. Are any of those clients eligible to just transition to another unit at another location?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're at our max capacity. The only people who would be going into like a scattered site model would be those clients with leases in place or with an expected housing opportunity, maybe by the end of February. Because of the change in the local resources, we don't want to be putting people in motels and using the funding that should be used for rental assistance and retention services on providing shelter beds. When we have PATH, we have Salvation Army, and we have Rescue Mission all willing to participate with us to provide those shelters.
Great. Great. And there is a question just about the shelters being able to accommodate the 22 clients that are open to a congregate shelter setting.
Yeah, so we created an MOU with the Salvation Army and contracted some beds. So with the funding from the CDSS through the county, we'll be providing those shelter bed options at Salvation Army to provide the case management services.
That's great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Any questions specifically about the bridge housing program? And then I see a question from Councilmember Sneddon that I want to get to as well. Okay, I don't see anything or anyone's hand up for that. Again, thank you, CityNet. Thank you for being here weekly to update us and just being part of that site visit last month, sharing the work that you have done to reduce impacts to the neighborhood. I see a noticeable difference. I hope residents in the area also see that noticeable difference. And then again, we'll continue to commit to focusing on the prioritized regions. Councilmember Stennon, you had a question about a day center. And so Jeff, I'll put you on the spot because this conversation has been going on before my time with SB Act and my time in homelessness in the county. And I know that the pop-up day centers have happened pre-COVID to kind of understand better, would people utilize a space if it were available, and would it reduce maybe some traffic that we're experiencing at things like the library when the library is open regularly or not? Can you share a little bit about the effectiveness of a day center and what that need would be in other regions?
Yeah, and my apologies for not, it won't change my name from Landon for some reason. So I'm not sure why, but this is Jeff. And first of all, I think there's, just from listening to, Father John talk about what they're doing with the day center there and how effective that is, I think day centers have proven themselves across the nation to be effective and also to kind of reduce the impacts of homelessness during the day while also serving the population, giving them safety and food and whatever else, mental health care, whatever care is needed. I think we have historically, I would say for the past 7 years, talked about Santa Barbara City, 7 or 8 years, about the potential of a day center for the city. The problem has always been finding the site and the willingness of the community to host the day center. And that's part of the reason why SBAC developed kind of neighborhood navigation centers as kind of more mobile centers, at least one day a week, where people can come and find the services they need. So I think there's always an openness to it, Councilmember Stetton. We did do that we did pop-up trials, I think, at different churches, because we were thinking about could we design something similar to the Freedom Warming Centers where churches would host pop-up day centers on a relatively regular basis, maybe once or twice a week as well. And both of those served to be effective with the number of people that were served, and some of the feedback received on it was the people appreciated it. I think we also had conversations with the library because the Central Library had mentioned how even when we did those day centers, those pop-up day centers, they saw the same numbers at the Central Library. And the library has really stepped in. They're going to bring on board their through FSA, they're going to bring on their social worker relatively soon to even assist more people at the library. So I think the library felt like no matter what we did within the community, people were still going to go to the library. That was some of the feedback we got from them. I do think, coming from the space of both compassion for our friends on the streets and just recognizing that whatever we do, we want to limit the impacts on the community, I think we're definitely open to it, to what we can do more if needed. I don't know if I answered your questions, Councilmember Sten, or not.
Well, you did. It was more, this conversation's been going on a long time about the need for a day center, and then I'm really thankful that you just put that all in order there, all the different things we've tried. And so I'm wondering if we're ready to sort of commit to another day center location and what those numbers of need might be. And maybe we have more information now to be able to really put that together. Maybe now's the moment. So that helps. Your information helps.
Well, and I think too, if the point in time count moves forward in January or perhaps a month later, that it is so critical for us to get the accurate count. So we have the baseline data we collected with CityNet and so many volunteers in September 2020, both State Street, Waterfront, and East Side as part of our regional action plan kind of kickoff start. And so we have the numbers of those who are unsheltered in those areas, as well as the number of street exits that we've been able to facilitate with CityNet over the last year. And so that gives us enough of a number to know visibly who might be able to be served with a physical day center. I think too, Jeff, CityNet and Emily, I can, if you have anything to add to this, also did kind of a survey about, what individuals that are unsheltered, what their needs are, what their wants are in terms of services and what their level of openness is to certain opportunities. Was a day center part of that conversation?
I believe it was on the
Yes.
list, and the
Yes.
people had the option of saying whatever they wanted as well. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, so in terms of our day center, the things that we're looking for are, sorry, hold on one second. So the things that people are looking for are phone chargers, and a charging station, places to read books. So similar to what the library is already offering. They want day storage for lockers, and they want it all in a location that they can access daily. So what it sounds like is kind of a meld of the library and the mental wellness center
Mhm.
over, so that was what we pulled from those. I wonder if we could actually look at the survey again, Jeff, and we could get some exact measures.
Sure, and we could do another round with we could do a lived experience survey with our lived experience working group. And so Councilmember Sten, if that's of interest, then we can definitely do that in this new year.
You. It's definitely of interest to me, and I think it would be helpful to move us forward, but I don't want to commandeer your time, and efforts without fuller direction, but it would be, I'd be really interested in that. I'll say that.
And regular communications with the library too, just in terms of, again, because of budget cuts the last year, they've had to reduce their hours. And so they are no longer open on Sundays, and they have limited hours on other days of the week now. Not to increase the impacts on the library after COVID, but they know they are a hub, and not just for individuals experiencing homelessness, but families who again are struggling, accessing employment opportunities, a safe space for those again that aren't necessarily living on the streets, but are in a housing insecure situation. And that is why that investment in a social worker on site through the Family Service Agency is so critical. And for us to learn going forward this year, kind of what that dynamic is, what referrals are able to provided. And I think, Kayla, you've been working so closely with the mobile library van at the neighborhood navigation center sites for the exact reasons that are mentioned, that charging, access to Wi-Fi, being able to, again, utilize a computer and meeting folks where they're at to be able to make that happen. So, but I think Councilmember Sneddon, and I know Councilmember Friedman has joined us too, top of mind is the impacts that we're experiencing in our neighborhoods, as well as support for individuals experiencing homelessness. And we are seeing those impacts in and around State Street, the waterfront, East Side, and Upper State during the day that could be mitigated by more availability of day centers. And so it's absolutely has to be a solution or strategy on the table as we work on multiple strategies at the same time. Any other questions for bridge housing program, prioritize regions? Any other questions just about, again, the work of SB Act in general as we go into next week, which will be our community concerns meeting? And so again, for folks that aren't able to take time away from work at 10 o'clock on a Thursday, that is the meeting to be prioritized if they have concerns that they want to share.
One of the ideas, we also have computers and we also have charging stations. That's a huge thing. We also do art therapy also.
Wonderful.
What about the possibility of mobile drop-in centers?
Yeah, so the Neighborhood Navigation Center has been our, not necessarily mobile, because what we've heard, and actually Kayla just facilitated a brainstorming session for our third Neighborhood Navigation Center site, which we're hoping can be located on the east side, is that the physical location, and again, even if that physical location isn't every single day of the week, and the consistent day and time. And Father John, you know this very well. That one person that, actually, is able to overcome, the odds to be able to be at that location, to partake in services. And if those services aren't there at that time and that day, then we might have lost them for a good long time after that. So that level of consistency we heard is absolutely key. I think we are kind of putting the idea of not necessarily a mobile, but a canvassing, so it's not necessarily a physical location, but we can be on this street at this day and time every single week. But we also know, as we've been able to monitor the impacts to neighborhoods, right? So the Alameda Park Neighborhood Navigation Center, we've had to overcome some perception that the existence of that NNC at that location on Thursday evenings is causing impacts to the neighborhood. And we were actually able to dispel that myth because I live right across from Alameda Park, and I was able to track and capture data over several months that showed, yes, there's that influx on that evening coming through and then leaving, but the number of folks in the park prior to the NNC on Thursdays, as well as after the NNCs, remained consistent. So not until that did we launch the commuter lot location. And again, that commuter lot location has a lot of characteristics that bode well to illegal activity that also make it a really nice, unique place for us to be, because it gets traffic from both West Side, East Side, Pershing Park waterfront, and we're able to serve a lot more folks because the location's accessible. So we're actually, now that we're present there, our communication with law enforcement is much more regular, and they're able to do those regular patrols. And again, because we're able to see and understand, and we're hearing from residents right away, and then we can take action after that. So again, these things in terms of correlating them to actual services, it's really tough on the data side, because I will say I live and breathe by data, and Conrad has opened my eyes to making sure that we know where that data sources are, the accuracy of that it's being affirmed. And when not, that we go back to make sure that we're collecting that data more accurately. But because of that, we're looking at that third NNC site. And again, looking at the flexibility of, could it be not necessarily one location, but one place, maintaining that consistent day and time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, one of the other things too is we give out bus tokens in the 10 passes because of the fact that we're kind of away from the epicenter. And I was thinking, if you're looking at more sites further out, that'd be included in there, so people won't have the excuse that they can't get there.
Absolutely. So bus tokens continues to come up. And I do think we're looking at our NNC budget to say, are there opportunities, again, because we know transportation is limited, the staffing capacity of service providers is limited, therefore transportation is limited. We're dealing with a lot of challenges there. And some people who have stopped transportation services because of this most recent wave of COVID-19. So once again, we're back here dealing with the same challenges that we have in the last couple of years. And again, hopefully getting to the other side and being able to make sure that people maintain access to services, to appointments, and they're moving on their way again to get the help that they need. So thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions, comments? Okay, prior to signing off, we have a limited number than usual on this call today at the start. Maybe other people experiencing sickness or dealing with coming back from the holidays and catching up on work. I think Jeff and Rich and Kayla, the entire team at SB Act, our commitment is always to show you that most respect and gratitude and compassion and empathy. We know absolutely that your concerns of safety, making sure that your families are safe, seeing impacts that you haven't experienced in your neighborhoods before. And again, your patience in us dealing with the staffing capacity of service providers to do the outreach. I appreciate the shout out to Al, and gratitude for Al and Emily and all the work that Cedina is doing at that Rose Garden Inn location and outside of that location throughout the city of Santa Barbara and county of Santa Barbara. But I ask moving forward that respect goes both ways. And so I've engaged on Nextdoor because we have received some advice from residents to share more data, more information, be able to step in when there's misinformation being shared. And so I did a trial run And I will say it has been really tough. It has been really tough. And I know our council members have experienced the same thing. We are all doing our best, right? And I think it's really important before sharing a comment or making a statement or sending a private message that is disrespectful in tone, that you think about what that individual is experiencing day to day and what they're going through, especially because we know every day is a challenge for anyone, let alone those who are living on the streets, those who are providing services to those living on the streets, as well as those who are dealing with bureaucracy and budgets and paperwork, right? So everyone has their trials and tribulations. And so I just ask for a little bit more empathy and compassion. And I will stop discourse on the Upper State Regional Action Plan if it's disrespectful to anyone who's here. And so I want you to know that I care about you. I'm a resident here. You are my neighbors. I am an Upper State almost daily. And I think everyone feels the same way, that this is our community and we're doing everything we can to make sure it's safe for everyone and our own families, as well as those who are experiencing incredible hardship. So that's my commitment and my New Year's resolution going into 2022. I know that is of SB Act. And so we ask that for a return from everyone who's participating in these regional action plan calls.
Barbara,
Anyone?
can I make a general invitation to all on call if they would like to come by and see the
Oh,
center?
great. Thank you, Father.
I think that seeing is, pictures worth 1,000 words, and seeing what we're doing and also helping us connect with other agencies would be great.
Thank you so much for that invitation. It is so great to have you back up and running. And again, it's a beautiful space and tremendous work, and compassionate volunteers are there every single day. Any last comments, questions, concerns before we see you next week? All right, Happy New Year, everyone. Next week, again, community concerns. We encourage the attendance and participation of residents. I'll make sure that we put that out on Nextdoor. And then we'll also be reporting back on these prioritized regions, especially after the holiday break, when we can, again, focus more attention on that. So thank you all for your time today. Really appreciate it. See you next week.
All right, get better.
Thank you.